Good late Monday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center with the latest on what is now Tropical Depression Ida. You see that there over Mississippi, not too far away from Jackson, the center, but the impacts here, the moisture spreading far away from the center now as it comes as it unwinds here as we are continuing to watch the situation. So again, I even see some tornadic action as we get toward areas there. It looks like around Auburn, a possible tornado moving in that general direction. So something for them to watch. A tornado warning in play for Lee and Macon counties there in Alabama until about 4:30 Central Time. So something to watch over there. But of course, this storm's had a destructive impact as we've kind of chronicled here, going back over the last few days here, talking about what was going to happen and then what did happen, of course. But we're going to have to watch even locally here as we look ahead into the timelines. That's something we'll talk about here in just a moment. But first off, I do want to kind of give you guys an overview of the latest information now that it's down to a depression. Again, it's unwinding here as we're looking toward Mississippi, but that lower pressure area going to be tracking over northern Alabama, Tennessee here, Kentucky, West Virginia, you kind of get the idea here as we look ahead later in the timeline. And as we're looking toward maybe the south of that, that's where we're going to have the eastern side of things, and that's where you have that tornado threat still going to be in place. So again, we'll kind of talk about that here in a moment, but this is the last National Hurricane Center advisory. The next advisory will be issued by the Weather Prediction Center at this point moving forward. But you do see the strongest continental U.S. hurricanes, folks. Ida making this list that we didn't know if it would. We knew it would be very impactful those several days in advance, but it ended up making this list, unfortunately, here with those winds, with those destructive winds in play. They're catastrophic winds, really, as we got down toward the coast. Tied there with Laura, and then that's 5 more storms in addition to those 2 with those winds that strong, at least preliminary data here on Ida, but probably will end up verifying as at least 150-mile-per-hour storm based on some observations we've seen. But Ida just so destructive there, as we've talked about now. Looking at this, actually 3 of the top 11 strongest storms to ever hit the U.S. here have happened just really within the last 4 hurricane seasons. And you could say, I mean, the ones that are tied at the bottom of this, I mean, you could make an argument here, even maybe 3 of the top 6 type storms, maybe even hitting here in the last 11 hurricanes, or in the last 4 hurricane seasons. So again, just interesting to see that. And then your Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. I know we had that catastrophic damage we were talking about there out toward the west. Everybody in our thoughts and prayers. As I'll go ahead and pop up the PowerOutage.us map right now. We'll kind of see what's going on over there, and you can see still about 1 million customers in the dark there. So many outages in southeastern Louisiana. It's going to take a really long time here to get the power restored for some folks. So just got to be kind of prepared for that as we're looking at some of the different parishes here. I know we're getting everybody out pretty much in terms of power toward New Orleans, and you see the coast areas, they're just devastated. Just going to be uninhabitable for a while down there. So really just getting the catastrophic blow to the coast. Now New Orleans, it could have been worse in that at least they didn't have the levees fail there. I didn't have any levee failures there in toward New Orleans proper, but some around there in the outlying areas did have an impact, unfortunately. So something to kind of take note of there. As we go on over to tomorrow's threat, though, locally we are going to be watching for some isolated severe weather, so just be weather aware here. A slight risk of severe weather in play. It does include parts of our area, so we'll be here as needed. Now, if for some reason we really get lucky, we don't have any tornado warnings here in play toward our area here over the next couple of days, and we'll come back on Thursday with our full update then. But I suspect we'll be breaking in maybe even more than once, maybe even for long-form coverage, as a slight risk generally indicates that a tornado watch may end up having to be issued here as we're looking ahead toward tomorrow. Now today's threat lower, I'll kind of pull that up here on our other screen. We did have a tornado warning in Coffee County, Alabama. That is part of the Tallahassee jurisdiction there, but it's not part there of the viewing circle that we cover. But you do see there the marginal risk of tornadoes does clip a few of our counties, our western counties, but really going to be watching that threat more west of the Apalachicola River here earlier on in the timeline. But again, this is going to be kind of getting closer and in toward our region here, a more robust threat potentially as we look ahead toward tomorrow, even seeing that marginal risk all the way out toward parts of our Jacksonville counties, parts of Columbia County, for instance, covered. So we'll have to just kind of watch this again. Ida unwinding here, but again, still having that impact being felt on that eastern side of the storm, which is to the south of it at this point. So just want to have those tornado safety tips here in mind. Whenever a tornado watch is in play, you want to stay tuned for those updates. Have multiple ways to receive alerts, and whenever a tornado warning is issued, you want to seek shelter inside a sturdy building, get as many walls between you and the outside as possible, and protect yourself with a bicycle helmet there in the case of maybe flying debris with a tornadic situation occurring. Now, generally, we're talking about lower end tornadoes here, EF0, EF1, but the picture on the background of this graphic was from an EF1 on Christmas Eve, and this kind of indicative it still can be dangerous and potentially cause injuries even. You just got to be aware of the tornado warning. So we'll be on for any tornado warning in our area tomorrow or tonight or whenever, as we always are here. Our policy to keep everybody protected. Just be ready for that coverage here if that is required as we look ahead toward the timeline, and just be ready to take shelter here as well. I know it's been a busy last several days. Last few weeks have been just really kind of exhausting here at times because we've been dealing with so much in terms of the tropics, the 3 different systems really, with Fred, and then we had Henri, and now of course Ida, the one that's probably going to get retired, as we do see here the next 5 days on our rainfall forecast. Most of this earlier on with the storm system, but you see a little more moisture pushing closer toward our region here, so that's something to kind of be watching for here as we look out in the timeline. But we're going to be continuing to watch things. I know you see Mississippi, a little bit more rain there. And speaking of Mississippi, let's go ahead and pop up their power outage information now. You can see the southwestern part of the state having some outages. You can see even toward the coast as well in there. We had hurricane warnings for a few of these counties, and quite a few in the dark there. So just definitely something to kind of take note of. Again, everybody in our thoughts and prayers out toward parts of Louisiana and Mississippi there with the impacts of our storm system. So we'll go ahead and move away from this graphic though, and you do see now our hurricane, our storm names. Kate, our next name now, that's highlighted, as we do have that out there. But luckily, unlike Kate and 85, not expecting any impacts with the U.S. In play here for this one. That's not going to happen. It doesn't look like, and that's good news. But Ida, of course, the one we're going to be talking about for a while, can cross that off pretty soon, but still having the impacts. Still have that logo red here, as we do have those local impacts possibly in store as we look ahead. I'll go ahead and kind of say that here now. We have our forecast model pulled up. I'll have to explain this to you a little bit because we don't have it where you can see the time necessarily really easy on this, but I'll go ahead and kind of walk you through it here the best I can. If you look real close in toward the right side of the screen, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about here in just a moment as we switch on over toward that. Now you do see this is going to be 0Z, which is equivalent to 8 o'clock Eastern time, so maybe not too much around then on the forecast model. I move it up a little. It's still not too much at that point, so that's going to be some good news at least here as we look ahead in toward the timeline. Definitely watching here as the situation does progress. Just going to be kind of seeing how things go again with that forecast model here as we look ahead, and we're going to be kind of progressing this in now even further. You do see some more moisture maybe trying to kind of sew up here, and maybe a little more well-defined accent off toward the west as we get, this is about 3 a.m. Eastern time, 4 a.m., maybe some storms in play, maybe not too robust for these. We'll just wait and see, but it seems like when we get that daytime heat mixing with some shear, that could be when we have some problems here with some tornado warnings in toward maybe this afternoon hour. You see around Tallahassee, some of these storms could be rotating. Even this accent could try to hang around as we see some more of it forming toward areas there this morning. River Valley, this is on early Wednesday morning. 10Z is like 6 a.m., just to give you guys that awareness of that. As you do see here, the storminess may be in play here as we get to about 9 a.m. even on Wednesday. So this is going to kind of hint around a little bit. Again, sending that forecast model with Ida there, so something to kind of bear in mind. You can see our name list, still seeing Ida's influence here as you see that storm system in Mississippi I see a couple other systems we'll watch. Again, Kate notes throughout, we already crossed off Julian. That was a very quick system. We pretty much had that in the Atlantic for less than a day. But as we have a system there toward Africa, 90% chance of development, that's something we'll watch. So right now it looks like a recurve. You never know. Things can change quick like they did with Ida. Of course, we give you that sufficient heads up, but still, again, things can change. And then a 20% chance system, that might be one to watch here since it's a little bit closer toward the U.S. But again, nothing of immediate concern, at least at this point. But in terms of those rain chances, that Ida influence there on your Tuesday, on your Wednesday, as we get toward Thursday, that we start to drop those chances of rain, and then maybe in time for some football games, we'll dry out, and hopefully we won't have to work through a weekend here this time around. Let's hope. Cross our fingers here as that college football action comes into focus as those rain chances really drop on down here. Maybe some lows at night, even a little bit cooler as well. So that would be something to look forward to. The daytime temperature may not really cool down too much, though. Unfortunately, it's been hot and may not see too much of a deviation in those. But we'll continue to watch things in that regard here. And just kind of speaking of those temperatures, let's go ahead now and pop up our other source here. We have our temperatures on the screen. You see 86 in Tallahassee right now. They're a little cooler, but under North Central Florida, it's been hot today. 93 toward Keystone, 92 Gainesville, 95 at Cecil Field. And you see some of the storms trying to pop up. We'll watch to see some of these discrete ones here toward southwest Florida, see if any of these rotate. Nothing too impressive yet. The shear really hadn't gotten in the area yet. Eventually, as we look to tomorrow, though, it will, it seems. And with the mixing with instability, it could be problematic at times. Not expecting a tornado outbreak, but still could have multiple tornado warnings in play here. And could be some of those weaker type tornadoes that we're talking about here in that scenario. So I know we had Sally kind of pass away from the area here, and still having that impact being felt. Claudette had that impact being felt here earlier this year, so you just never know. We'll be here in the Weather Center to watch it. Again, the bigger threat will be out more toward Tallahassee than the Jacksonville area, but we're going to be kind of monitoring things here in the Weather Center, just getting maybe that overlap of that shear instability at a time tomorrow. That could prompt tornado watch to be issued, and maybe some tornado warnings could be issued as well. So we'll be here in the Weather Center. No formal update here tomorrow, Wednesday. However, I suspect we'll be on here tomorrow, maybe for a pretty good bit of time, depending on how things set up. Of course, if we get lucky, that'd be great news. You have cloudweather.com/radar for the latest, but I'm expecting us to have some tornado warnings in play, especially as we look toward the western zones here at some point, either late tonight, tomorrow especially, and then maybe just watching the early Wednesday as we look off toward the east of this, as this system kind of tries to get out of here as we get further off into toward that timeline. So we'll be here watching things a little bit uncertain still here, but that low pressure kind of acting more like a severe weather setup at this point here, with it not being something that's a tropical storm, but kind of just bringing in those shear values here, and then having that influence from it, increasing some rain chances. And as we're looking again from Tallahassee and Albany westward, that's where we're a little more concerned maybe for something to develop tornadic. So thanks so much for tuning in. Trusting me. Have a great night. We'll be back here as needed with the latest information on Ida and that influence in the local area. Have a great night.